Oh man, guys. Oh man. A little surprise just dropped. A little Christmas surprise just dropped. Not just for Cardano, but for all of crypto. Like we've been talking about, 2025 has been this trek through the desert, a thirsty, empty trek through the nothingness of a terrible year for crypto, but a pretty good surprise just dropped for all of crypto. If you feel like crypto has already waited long enough for a good surprise, or if you're finding value in these videos, please consider delegating to the Army of Spies DRep address and the Army of Spies stake pool, ticker AOS. All right. Thank you for joining me, everybody. Thank you for joining. I know we are already kind of into the beginning of the holidays. So people are probably off already doing holiday things, but I appreciate everybody who's joining right now and everybody who will listen to this over the next couple of days. So let's see who's here. Neo Chat is here. Let's go. Fly Over Me here is here. Merry Christmas. Fly Over Me says, let's ho go. Frazek is here. Let's go, Frazek. Pucky Hawk is here. And I did note in the comments, this is a pretty big rumor. What we're going to talk about is a pretty big rumor we've been waiting for a long time. We talked about this years ago, and it looks like just today, the news is sort of being leaked a little bit that it's about to happen. This is something we've talked about for years. The specific thing we've talked about for years, and the general thing we talk about all the time. Pucky Hawk, Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining. Merry Christmas. Brown Bearded Hermit says, can we just get the astronaut some water? It's hot out there. Yep. I think as soon as the liquidity is flowing in 2026, as soon as the liquidity is flowing a little bit more, we might find the astronaut in much more tropical surroundings. I thought the astronaut being in the desert was the only way to finish off 2025. So he's been in the desert for most of December. Neo Chad says, yes, Merry Christmas, everyone. Crypto Gypsy says, Merry Christmas from Australia. Troll 2000 says 07. Ada Eclipse here. Thanks for joining. Jeff Burns says, I'm thirsty like Trump at a Miss Teen contest. Joe Davidson says, you lied, but I'm so happy. No, I said no, we're not going to do it. We're not going to do it tomorrow and the next day. Tomorrow and the next day, we're not going to do it. That was tomorrow and the next day. Let's go. Create the imaginable. Let's go. Bindu Cam. Lost track of time. That's okay. Crams Ray. Merry Christmas. Thank you for joining. Merry Christmas. Donkey Ned is here. It's true. Joe Davidson says, this is going to be a great day. I think so. I think it is going to be a great day. Alexander D. Mello says, all right, I'm sorry for getting worried about price. I've seen more videos of Charles talking about Cardano and wanting it to succeed. Okay, excellent. Thank you for joining, Alexander. Thank you for joining. Bindo Cam says, happy holiday or whatever you do. Joe David says Merry Christmas. Frazek says ETFs. I think this might even be better. This might even be better than ETFs, to be honest with you. Jose Cano. I mean, ETFs, pretty big economic impact, but I think this is way more exciting. Jose Cano, hello. Thank you for joining. Brian Packard, good evening. Mr. iWebCode EMS says, God bless us, everyone. Create the Imaginable says, Merry Christmas. Sub-Zero, Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. What's up, bull or bear market? We're going to find out. Lone Eagle's here. Yeah, and so whatever holidays you might be celebrating this month, happy holidays. This isn't meant to target any one particular group, but happy holidays no matter what you're celebrating this month. And if you're celebrating nothing this month, happy December to you. So not trying to single out any particular groups here. Fortune 10. I think this is more exciting than all that. So I haven't seen anybody guess what this is, and that's because it's a little bit unsubstantiated, but it's something we've been talking about for years. This has to do with, this is a very specific thing about the bigger question: when is a giant tech platform going to adopt crypto? in a meaningful way. I don't just mean, parts of Google doing something here, doing something there. I mean, when is a big tech platform going to step forward and say, we're all about crypto? This whole thing is going to be about crypto. We're going to turn our entire platform, our entire ecosystem into, yep, Troll Toll 2000 is getting very warm. We're going to turn our entire platform into an economic ecosystem centered on crypto. When is that going to happen? That's been a big theme of this channel. A big theme of this channel has just been, when are we going to get that huge adoption event where all of a sudden a giant platform with millions and millions of users says, we're going to be crypto first. We're going to jump forward and this thing is going to be all about crypto. Jeff Byrne. Yep. Here it is. Okay, here's the big rumor, and it's a little bit unsubstantiated at this point. This is the big rumor though, and it's this is the big rumor, and it's from a source that we can believe him or not, but this is something we've been hearing about for years. We've even seen silent filings. We've seen money services business filings for X. Years ago, I reported on X filing with various states for money services business licenses. Today, 6 hours ago, Mario Knopfel posted this: X Payments goes live, finance unchained. Elon just dropped X Payments and it's ready to start moving markets. P2P payments launched December 18th, live across the US in beta. Zero fee instant transfers via wallet, bank, card, crypto coming Q1. So at this point, we're going to talk about whether or not we can verify this. We can't, not really, but there's something here. Years ago, I reported on X, right after Elon bought it, basically, right after Elon acquired X, there were filings in a whole bunch of different states for money services business licenses, something that X would not need unless they were planning on transmitting money, So you notice this isn't only about crypto. They're talking about banks and cards, but guess what? We need on-ramps. What we really want to do is just be able to click on somebody's profile and hit the $ button and be able to send money. Euro button, yen button, whatever you want, whatever your flavor. But we just want to be able to send money back and forth on X. This is what we've always wanted. Google could have done this with Gmail. They could have incorporated a similar thing into Gmail. Did they do that? No, because crypto has become politicized. Most of those guys are on the left. They think we're all a bunch of far right guys at this point. They probably hate our asses. Let's face it. Those guys and a lot of other tech companies probably hate our asses because crypto has been painted as this like far right thing. I think that's a very unfair characterization, but let's face it, they probably hate us. Guess who doesn't fucking hate us? Elon doesn't hate us. This could be the moment where we get that type of button, not on Google, not anywhere else. We get it on X. So if this happens and we can start sending crypto back and forth to each other, no fees. I don't know if he had, yeah, zero fee. He says that here, zero fee. I'll show you some other places where people mention zero fee, but zero fee instant transfers of crypto back and forth. Are there a lot of questions about this? Yes. Is it even real? It's a question mark. How much self-custody is going to be sacrificed here? Question mark. Is this good or bad for crypto? Question mark. A lot of questions. But step one is getting a fucking gigantic tech platform to adopt crypto and say, hey, we're going to be crypto first. So let's see what's actually, and I actually like that banks and cards are mentioned here because we need goddamn on-ramps and off-ramps, right? We do need them. We do it all through Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, right? Is that the best situation? Not really. I'd rather we be doing it through X. I'd rather we be doing it somewhere like X, right? I love Kraken. I do love Kraken. I appreciate them very much. But man, we spend a lot of time on X. X in a lot of ways is the digital home. It's the online home of crypto. And man, it is good for us to be able to just hit that button and transfer some fees to somebody directly through their X account. So let's go through the rest of his post though. 0 fee instant transfers via wallet, bank card, and crypto coming Q1. Over 1 million signups in 72 hours. Question mark. Is that real? App downloads jumped 12% globally. We'll examine that claim in a second. Question mark. X Credit, this gets even more interesting. X Credit offers up to $1,000 in instant loans for verified users. Is that real? Question mark. Bypasses banks entirely, fast, direct, and built for scale. And people have already pointed out the contradiction here. He says bypasses banks directly, but then up here he says transfers via wallet, bank card, and crypto. So there's some contradiction here. No legacy gatekeepers, no friction, just alternative payments with the X factor. And he points out down here, back in July, Elon said, we need to get X payments going soon. So how real is this? Let's take a look at the comments before we move on with whether or not we can verify this. TLDR, we can't. So Joe Davidson says, yeah, I remember they had Nevada. Yeah, they filed in several states. I will finally get verified if he does that. I think a lot of people would. Doge, yeah, I mean, Doge is certainly going to be on the menu. This is another question mark. What cryptocurrencies are we talking about here? And most importantly for us, is Cardano going to be included? Preferably Cardano and Night. Or do we get skipped somehow? You know, definitely Doge is going to be in there. I think you can imagine that Bitcoin is going to be in there. Probably Ethereum. What else? What beyond those? Big question marks. They all want to transmit. They do. I think soon, if X does this, the other tech platforms are instantly going to jump on board and announce their own plans to do the same thing. I can imagine Google doing this through Gmail, right? It's like just a button inside Gmail, you know, you click that button. Every big tech platform is going to want to be able to do this. Coinbase and Robinhood are also aiming to be an everything platform. Definitely. Yeah, it's kind of interesting when you think about X and Coinbase. Like Coinbase is like this crypto native thing, and it's sort of trying to expand out from crypto. And then you've got X, which was purely a social media thing, expanding into crypto. So they're kind of coming to the same everything platform kind of conception from different directions though. Guinness Speaks says, what's up, DGens? D-Night says, as always, I'm enjoying the stream. The like is smacked without a doubt. Thank you. Thank you so much. How does that work with no fees? Just fees to withdraw. So we don't know. We don't even know how real this is at this point. The fiat mines have been rough this week after the win. So sorry to hear that. I know that feeling very well. So I sympathize very strongly. Pucky Hawk says, just having it as an option on X will cause interest from new people to crypto. Absolutely. I mean, this is something I can tell. I actually told one non-crypto person about this in between reading this and talking to you about it right now. And even they were excited by it. This is a person who has never, aside from me helping them buy a little crypto back in the day, which they have done absolutely nothing with, even this person was pretty excited at the prospect of there just being like a crypto button inside X. I started missing my bikes today. Nope, not going to do it. No, won't do it. No, there you go. Do not buy a new bike. Do not buy a new bike. Isaro Bargas. Hello. Thank you for joining. One of their execs mentioned X money back in January. Yeah, there've been little hints. I mean, here you got Elon talking about X payments right here. Yeah, the Xmas surprise is that there's a rumor that Twitter is going to launch X money, X payments, including crypto in Q1. Frazak Robinhood is by far the clear choice between those two, says Pucky Hawk. Lone Eagle says, hope people will be using crypto for transactions soon and not even know it. I think that is the end goal. That is the end goal, for people to be using the blockchain, not even know it. James, hello. Thank you for joining. Okay, so let's go through a few attempts. Feliz Navidad, Rulo. Thank you for joining. I think a lot of people are going to be surprised when Clarity passes. Let's see. Jeff says, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised when Clarity passes and they realize their centralized shit coins can't be used. Yeah, I mean, depends on what Clarity looks like when it passes. We know that A16Z is spending some time in there talking to the senators, and guess what they're going to want? They're going to want for a whole bunch of VC coins to be eligible. And a lot of those VC coins, at least from my view, are not decentralized in the same way that a Cardano is. So we'll see. I mean, this is a case where you want the crypto lobbyists to win, but maybe we don't want those crypto lobbyists to win, And will they? They've definitely got a lot of money, so we'll see. We'll see. Okay. Hard to say. Hard to say on that one. That's hard to say. If it doesn't start with Doge, I may fall over. Yep. I agree. Yep. Okay, we're gonna go to Grok in just a second. Flyover me's interrogation of Grok resulted with this. Yes, there are solid grounds for believing that X will eventually integrate cryptocurrency into its payment system, potentially including a seamless crypto button for transactions even. Okay, let's go to some attempts people have made today to verify this. So immediately people were asking Grok what Grok thought about this. I mean, after all, Grok is the official XAI. It's made by literally XAI. It's native to this platform. Maybe Grok would know something. This poster asked Grok, where can I find all the details on X payments? So this response was interesting. Check X's official blog. If you go there, it is not current. There hasn't been a post to that blog since 2023. And Elon's posts for the latest on X payments. I went there too. Couldn't find anything. And then they say, from recent reports, I checked TechCrunch, couldn't find anything. And Mario, you notice Mario also mentioned TechCrunch. I couldn't find a TechCrunch article on this. But anyways, Grok says it's in beta with P2P transfers, zero fee wallet options, and instant loans up to 1,000 for verified users. Crypto integration expected Q1 2026. Availability is US focused initially. And I mean, I'm telling you, if you click this, you will not find anything of interest. This poster confirmed the same thing. I see nothing recent on blog.x.com or anything about X payments. So Grok is sort of hallucinating its sources here. As near as I can tell, at least this one seems to be a hallucination. So here's another one. Grok fact check. Based on recent searches and news sources, lastly, eMarketer Investopedia from the last 2 months, X Payments, X Money has been in internal testing since December 11th, but no confirmed public beta launch on December 18th. No evidence of 1 million signups in 72 hours or 12% app download jump. X credit loans and zero fee crypto transfers are not verified. Features like P2P are planned for 2025, but not live yet. Sources indicate delays from original timelines. So what happened here? We know, I mean, Mario Knopfel, he often gets news. He often has news ahead of the crowd. He often knows things ahead of the crowd. And, as his profile tells you, he is the largest show on X, being like one of the largest, sort of personality platforms on X with almost 3 million followers. You can imagine that he might have some inside access to X and know some things the general public doesn't. And it's not like he just reposted something. I mean, he went through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, basically six different bullet points. He made this whole little infographic video. So it's not like he just off the cuff reposted something that someone else had posted. I mean, these details came from somewhere. These stats, like over 1 million signups in 72 hours, app downloads jumped 12% globally. Like those numbers had to come from somewhere. Maybe, I guess it's possible this could all be one big AI hallucination, but we know this is something that Elon's been working on. I mean, the post down here, July, we need to get X payments going soon, right? So we know something's going on. This has got to happen eventually. It makes sense. Like, why would Elon, you can go at it from the opposite direction. Why would Elon not do this? It seems like this would be the first thing, the next thing they would be working on. Obviously there's like all kinds of little tweaks happening all the time on a platform this big, lots of people working on improving the platform at all times. But as far as big initiatives, you can't really imagine anything else that could be a priority ahead of this one, incorporating crypto. So there might be something here. This could all just be some kind of a big mistake. Maybe Mario, is wrong about all this. Maybe all this was invented. Maybe there was no P2P launch on December 18th. When I asked Grok totally separately about this, Grok told me to just go download the latest version of x.com and gave me a bunch of buttons to push to get to the payments section. I did exactly what it said. Could not find the payment section either on the desktop version or on the mobile version. So I don't know. But when I asked Grok the question, Grok didn't say, no, there is no X money. There is no X payments. It just started giving me instructions on how to reach it, which to me is kind of consistent with X payments being a thing that's maybe been launched in beta only internally. Maybe only internally inside X. Maybe everybody inside X has been testing X payments since we don't really know what date. Maybe the 11th, like Grok said down below, maybe the 18th, as it said here. We don't really know. And maybe that's why there's no information in the public. Maybe this was launched internally, and Mario Nawfal, being one of the biggest profiles on X, maybe he's been talking to an internal ex-employee who gave him this information, and he is leaking it here without knowing that this is all just internal stuff right now. Maybe that's what's going on. So Pucky Hawk says, well, even without any other differences, Robinhood has dark mode. This is necessary. They also have a pretty incredible Roth IRA matching thing among tons of other stuff. Dark mode is very important. I would call it night mode. That's a little foreshadowing, guys. Though no official confirmation exists as of December 23rd, 2025. Yeah, we definitely do not have official confirmation. I can say that for sure. What is Clarity? Tell me more. Okay, Clarity Act is an act, a bill that was passed through the House that's very similar to all of the crypto bills. We saw people like Senators Gillibrand and Senator Lummis, who's leaving the Senate soon. We found out just the other day. Very similar to the bills they've been putting forward, similar to the Fit 21 Act. It sort of, allows for crypto to be treated as a commodity as opposed to a cryptocurrency if it meets certain thresholds. The most notable of those, revolving around decentralization. So you can launch, and if you become decentralized within a certain amount of time, you can be in the commodities world. If you do not become decentralized, you are in the securities world, and all of the periodic reporting and disclosures and regulations, all of the whole regulatory regime in the securities world, you are subject to it. So it's kind of what we want to see, but the important thing is how decentralized. Obviously, VCs are going to want all of their coins they've invested in to qualify, but when people like us, Cardano people, look at a lot of VC coins, they don't seem very decentralized to us. So the big question is going to be, how is the bill going to define decentralization? What are they going to say is decentralized enough? That's a big question. Yeah, I think 2026 is going to be really exciting. I mean, it kind of makes sense. Elon is looking, and he probably has whole teams looking at the same stuff we look at all the time. He knows liquidity is coming in 2026. He knows that the Federal Reserve stopped contracting the balance sheet on December 1st and is now pumping 40 billion per month into the system. Elon is paying attention to this stuff at a level that, we can't even compare our little discussions to. So, man, doesn't it make sense that he would launch this in 2026 as liquidity is coming in, when the history of crypto has told us that good things happen in crypto when liquidity comes in. Bo Holly, thank you. Thank you for joining from the Philippines. Merry Christmas. Will it be as bad as the Cybertruck? I mean, Nigel, one thing about the Cybertruck is we all know what it is. So, I mean, they say no, they say sort of people saying bad things about you is better than people saying nothing about you. I think the Cybertruck is an example of that. We all know about the Cybertruck. It's very polarizing. People either talk a lot of shit about the Cybertruck or they think it's awesome, but everybody kind of has an opinion on the Cybertruck. And I think that's part of the whole game plan in Elon's companies, right? It's like they're not afraid to be polarizing. I think they don't care if you hate them or you love them, but they're happy that you're talking about them, right? Jay Marie, thanks for joining. Thanks for joining. Let's go. Pucky Hawk says, in like 1973, when I was 5 years old, I drew a Tesla Cybertruck. I had no idea I was seeing the future. A lot of people made that joke. It's kind of accurate. Where are the Doge guys? I know the Doge guys should be all over this for sure. At Cardano, thanks for joining. Rulo says all chains will be Cardano partner chains eventually. Yeah, like that is. Yeah, I think Cardano is going to be doing a lot of evil laughing over what some of our partner chains do. There is no such thing as bad publicity. Yep. That's a more concise way of putting the point for sure. Okay, so let's look at some more things. So this is the big rumor though. This is the big rumor that I think is really important. This is something that could be extremely impactful if Elon finally launches X payments next quarter, Q1. Remember, Q1 starts in like a little over a week. Q1 starts in less than 2 weeks. We're already in Q1. And we know that's when the liquidity starts flying. We know Scott Bessent is talking about all kinds of things. They're getting ready to do all kinds of things on the macro front. So it's a lot of things are lining up. A lot of things are lining up for 2026. BindoCam says Q1 crypto sort of aligns with certain things. Flavelli Flomachenko. Yes. X payments equals Clarity Act. Yeah, I think the Clarity Act passing, it probably is timed in a lot of ways to certainly the passage of the Clarity Act is going to give some comfort to a platform like X to launch crypto payments. They don't want to be transacting in assets where there's no regulatory clarity. And just by the name, that's what the Clarity Act is meant to provide. So very good point. So here's something that's a little bit more isolated to Cardano. So people keep asking, when is Knight going to start trading in Japan? So, and Stick with Pride made this very cool graphic of Shibuya with the giant midnight wood print, the wave graphic here. And Charles pointed out 0 centralized exchanges in Japan have turned on yet. So Japan, of course, being the home of Cardano. Cardano was launched in Japan. So can we expect a good adoption wave out of the home of Cardano? I sure hope so. And I think we're all kind of holding our breath, waiting for it. And I believe we've been told January. That's going to happen in January. And we know that Charles is doing this big tour of Japan very soon. So, I mean, we might still have a giant wave of adoption in Japan for Knight. So interesting things to come on the Knight front. So here's something else. So Sea Explorer launched a governance outcomes tab. So if you want to see how the vote turned out on any of the governance actions, the Voltaire governance actions in Cardano, you can just go to this tab on seaexplorer.io. So I had an idea. Something that people ask me about occasionally is how many dollars we've actually spent out of the treasury. Yesterday, I tried to go through and add up the best I could what has been approved. Not just the things I voted for, because I voted no on a lot of expenditures, but the community voted yes on a lot of expenditures. So counting the ones that the entire community, all the DReps approved, I kind of tallied it up and came to a figure of something like 347 million. So I offered that the Sea Explorer guys, this is a great way. I think it's great that they're adding these kinds of tabs. An idea is, what if they added a year-to-date approved treasury withdrawals tab with a total in ADA? So as the year goes on, we could just see, like, wouldn't it have been great all 2025 if every time we had a vote, we could look and see like, oh, now we're at 270 million. Now we're at 347 million. They could even have like a pie chart showing what percentage of the current net change limit we're at. Are we at 97% of the net change limit? Maybe have another pie chart breaking down by category how we're spending the money. I think having dashboard type tools that give everybody a very transparent view into where the money's going, that's only good for governance, right? When you have representative governance, one of the most important things is the citizens of that ecosystem being able to understand what the hell's going on, right? Something we often don't have, I think, in a lot of our modern governance, certainly not in the US. You know, I hear a lot of people in Europe and Asia complaining of the same things, certainly other parts of the world as well. So I think if we had a lot of transparency into the treasury withdrawal thing, that would be a huge benefit to all of us. Because if you think about it, what is like literally the most important thing the government does, right? It redistributes assets. So money comes into every government. Every government has money coming into it, usually in the form of taxes. And then they take those taxes and they distribute it back out in a different way than it came in, right? Often they're paying for things. They might be paying for infrastructure, might be paying for services, but different people end up with the money on the other end of that than the people who paid in. You know, you might be one of the lucky ones who gets paid out of that. And right now we're not talking about benefits and entitlements really. We're just talking about, you know, paying for things like we do in the Cardano ecosystem. So, you know, the money that comes into the treasury from block emissions, right, out of the reserves, and transaction fees. Yesterday we covered how the treasury gets 20% of those. So that's a tax on the entire ecosystem. Those are block rewards that would normally go to all of us who are staking, and transaction fees that would normally go to all of us who are staking. Instead, it goes into the treasury. So it's a tax on the ecosystem. And this is how it gets redistributed back out by these treasury withdrawal governance actions. And I think we need a lot of transparency into this. So I hope someone builds this and every year we just sort of have a running tab. I like year to date, even though we'll see in just a second, you know, the NCL proposals aren't necessarily going to be per calendar year. They might be a different number of epochs. But I think we need a lot of transparency into how the money is being spent, because it's literally the most important thing governments do, not just in crypto, but pretty much everywhere. Breja says, oh, good one. This news leaking could equal green light for Clarity and X. Yep. I think this is a big deal. I think it's a really big deal. Clarity has a great chance, even without any more influence at this point. This is for better than crypto being illegal. Yeah, Clarity, as near as we can all tell, Clarity is going to pass. I think we're gonna get that markup in January, and then it's sort of like on the president's desk and we're done. Finish line. After how many years? It's been since 2009, guys. It's been a long time. Mission Zambia, thanks for joining. Good morning. I wish Elon was a little less divisive. 5 years ago, he was a lot better regarded. That is why he was so influential when he first entered crypto. If he had made this move back then, true. I mean, Elon was, I mean, let's call it like it is. Elon was a darling of the left because he made electric cars, right? The left loved him. He was making electric cars. He was regarded as an environmentalist, but it turned out on social issues, he embraced the same kinds of viewpoints that a lot of people on the right embraced. So he's no longer the darling of the left, right? It's a little bit this nuanced thing, right? Like we often don't regard people as humans who might have different viewpoints on environmental, social, economic issues. You know, these are all different categories of viewpoints you might have, and you might be, you know, your viewpoints might be very consistent with the left. socially but not economically, or very consistent with the right, economically but not socially. You can have different categories of views. I think Elon is one of those guys. He seems to very much care about, emissions, carbon emissions on Earth. He seems to care about that very much. It's sort of the reason for being for his most famous company. And at the same time, he's this nuanced human being. He has social viewpoints that, even though his environmental viewpoints are probably very consistent with the left, his social viewpoints are very not consistent with a lot of the left. So I think he's just kind of like this very nuanced guy. He used to be very, very embraced by the left. Then he was very, very embraced by the right. But the right does not love electric cars. so he's kind of just a human being out there floating with certain viewpoints that, might align with both sides. But he's certainly divisive. He is certainly a much more polarized character now than he was 5 years ago. So there you go. To the moon at night. Yes. Hopefully wider use of LLMs will boost Cardano if people are searching for top decentralized, secure, scalable blockchains. Yeah, this is an interesting byproduct of, people suddenly having access to advanced cognition. Let's face it, there's a lot of stupid people out there. Let's just be honest. There is an IQ spectrum, and there's a lot of dumb people out there. You know what I mean? Fully half of the people are in the bottom half in terms of IQ. Every other person, if you encounter a random sampling of human beings, every other person is in the bottom half in terms of IQ. They're not going to be able to understand why Cardano is great, because the reasons why Cardano is a good blockchain are pretty nuanced. You have to be kind of smart to understand it. But LLMs suddenly provide people with excess cognition, right? And I'm not saying the people in the bottom half of the IQ pool are smart enough to know they should be using LLMs, but I'm saying some of them will use LLMs. And with that advanced cognition, with that extra cognition they didn't have before, the LLM is probably going to give Cardano a little bit more of a fair shake. Hopefully a well-designed LLM will give Cardano a little bit more of a fair shake than the average person in crypto, because I would rather have somebody go to Grok and ask Grok, hey, how does Cardano stack up against the other blockchains, than go to the average, ETH maximalist or Bitcoin maximalist. I think Grok is going to give them a much less biased accounting of that one, right? Elon is not controversial. People are. He used to be the hero of the demo. Yep. That's what I was getting into. Happy, merry. Omar, thanks for joining. Pucky Hawk says, I'm a right leaner and I love electric cars. Yeah, I mean, people are nuanced. People have different viewpoints. I'm an old RC car builder, so I've always been into it. Yeah. I'm dumb and I'm smarter than almost everybody I meet, and it scares me. Yeah, that's the really scary part. That's the really scary part, when you run into the really dumb people and, you're like, you ask yourself, man, there are people smarter than me, and this guy is in a totally different part of the IQ spectrum than me. This is bad. It just makes you wish that everybody was smarter. I think that would be, I wish people had higher IQs. I wish everybody had higher IQs. That would be nice. Yep. I too am a fan of the electric things, guys. I'm a fan of the electric things very much. My fiat job is run by people that are really, really stupid. Yep. I've been in that position multiple times. Oprah. I'm guessing you mean Oprah told Trump, not an opera. I don't know that Trump goes to a lot of operas, but I believe that Oprah probably told him things. Oprah even told Trump he was a Dem. He should run for president. Yep. Oh yeah, actually, I believe I've seen the clip where Oprah was interviewing Trump, and they talked about that. Laugh out loud. Look at the leadership. I wish my bosses played Factorio and learned how to organize things. My critical thinking skills. Yep, exactly. A lot of people don't have them. I wish the movie Idiocracy was not so accurate. IQ just rug pulled us. Yes, it's a huge problem. So we mentioned earlier the net change limit. So Intersect is proposing our next net change limit. So you know how the net change limit works. It's how much money can be pulled out of the treasury over a given period of time. I'm really glad we have this. I predicted from the moment people first started talking about a net change limit, when it was a concept proposed in the Constitution, I said, no matter what the net change limit is, we're going to run into it every single period. Whatever the period is and whatever the net change limit is, we're going to run it up against. We're going to push up against the net change limit every time. It's human nature. Whatever is the ceiling on the amount that any government or any bureaucracy can spend, they're going to spend pretty close to that limit. They're going to go up to that limit, whether it's a good idea or not. Usually, it seems like it's not a good idea. Usually, the people who are subject to the bureaucracy's spending would have preferred if the bureaucracy spent less money. That's usually the case. I think it's going to be the case here as well. So Intersect is proposing this new NCL for the 2026 to 27 period. And notice I didn't say year there. We're not talking about a specific calendar year. Why is that? Because they're not proposing a calendar year NCL. I actually wish they would do this on a calendar year basis. It's like very Cardano to do it in terms of epochs. Here they're proposing it for 100 epochs from epoch 613 to epoch 713. I wish we would just do it on a calendar year basis. This is like cool and kind of cypherpunk to do it this way, 100 epochs, but wouldn't it just be easier if we did it on a calendar year basis? I mean, come on. We've been using calendar years for a long time. You know, most cultures use some kind of calendar year. They might have different ones, you know, they might have different calendars. In Asia, we run into very different calendars than we have in the West, those kind of things. That's all fine, but everybody's kind of using some kind of year. I think maybe we should just stick to a year. But anyways, what is this 100 epoch period? I know you're all trying to figure out, what are we even talking about here? What is this period? When does it go to and from? And some here, okay, right here. So this 100 epochs, epoch 613 to epoch 713, goes from approximately February 2026, and it's early February to July 2027, and it's late 2027. I actually punched it into an AI and had the AI just tell me when these epochs end. So the end of this epoch is in early February. The end of this epoch is in late July 2027. So this is like not a 12-month period. This is more than a 12-month period. This would be a 12-month period if it went to February 2027. Instead, it goes to July 2027. So we're talking about, you know, counting, you know, this epoch being in early February, this being in late July. You know, we're talking like, you know, a year and 5 months, almost a year and a half over this period. So it's not even a 1 year period. It's not a calendar year, and it's not even a 12-month period. It's 100 epochs. So what's the amount they're talking about? Again, 350 million ADA. That's our current NCL. And you all know, if my numbers yesterday were right, I haven't had anybody convince me that they were wildly wrong or anything like that yet. That could still happen, but nobody's shown me that it's wrong. It looks like we're hitting about 347 right now. So here's the nuance here. If you think about that, we spent, from the start of governance until now, we spent about 347 million ADA. So we'll just call it 350. We spent the full NCL of 350 over a period of like, you know, effectively what, like 9 months or something. So we spent pretty quick. We had a lot of things we had to do. You know, IO had to build out Ouroboros Laos. That was kind of a non-negotiable. We needed that for Basho. That's basically the bulk of Basho besides Hydra, which we've kind of already got. We've got even a DEX running on Hydra already. But we needed Laos. It's input endorsers. We all know why we need input endorsers. So we needed that. So we had to drop some big money on IO to do that. Then we had to drop the 70 million for the critical integrations. We had to do that. And then there was the Intersect budget. We paid for a lot of projects to do a lot of good infrastructure things we needed. There was a lot of money. So we're up to 347 in like 9 months. This would be an NCL of 350 over the course of like a year and a half. So it's actually way less than a 350 NCL for 1 year. And it's way, way less than a 350 spent over the course of 9 months, like we just did. So this is actually like a net change limit that would have us spending less. What would I predict actually happens here? Because people love so fucking much to spend money, like bureaucrats and elected officials fucking love to spend money, especially in Cardano, because we think that we can like spend our way ahead. We think we can like pave the runway with gold and that will make the chariots run faster. I don't think that's really the case in a lot of ways. In some ways it will be, in some ways it is, but in a lot of cases I think that will turn out to be untrue. But that is what the elected representatives believe. That is what all bureaucrats believe in sort of all cases, just due to human nature. So I think what's going to happen is they'll actually bump up against, I think over the course of like this like year and 5 months and change period or whatever it is, year and a half basically, they'll spend through that 350 NCL and they'll want to increase the NCL or sort of prematurely end that 350 NCL and vote in, start a new period. Like after a year, they'll be like, oh, we've already spent the 350. We want to spend more. So we'll just amend the period of this NCL and say, now it's going to be a 12-month NCL instead of 100 epics. It's going to be 66 epics, 72 epics, whatever. I could see that kind of thing happening. Is this still an improvement? This info action, is this still an improvement over what we could get? 350 million NCL over 100 epics. This is better. This is an improvement over what we have been spending. So I'm inclined to support this, even knowing that people will probably turn around after 12 months and want to amend the NCL. Hell, we had to extend the current NCL just barely so that we could get the 70 million out for the critical integrations. So we kind of know already how this is going to go. Puckyhawk says Oprah was in 1989. IQ rug pull, that was pretty funny. Yep, that was pretty funny. Brown bearded hermit says, if you want to enforce it on chain, it probably have to be in epics, but I'd agree it's better to translate this date for the rest of us. A year is 73 epics if memory serves. Yeah, I think that's about right. Yeah, I agree. It does need to, for on-chain enforceability, we need to define it in epics. But here they intentionally chose a period that they knew was going to be, over a year. I kind of think it's going to be easier on everybody if we sort of describe it as a year. But I sort of think they're trying to help. I think they're trying to help us spend less by keeping it the same magnitude, 350, but stretching it out over 100 epics as opposed to the 72 or 73 epics, stretching it out over a year and a half as opposed to a year. So it's a little bit of psychological manipulation here. People will look at this and say, oh, 350, that's our current NCL. I'll vote for that. And then they might not understand the 100 epics is actually a much longer period. So it's a very different rate of spending. So, but yeah, I agree. For enforceability, it needs to be in epics. Is XPay going to tie into the open agentic commerce protocol, enabling AI agents to conduct commerce seamlessly and programmatically, handling tasks like payments, bookings, and negotiations autonomously? What I would say about that is that X is basically the ultimate playground for bots right now. So if I would say the bots are better at manipulating things on X than they are anywhere else. So X payments might be also the ultimate playground for agentic, activity by bots also, right? I think, X is already the place where AI has this huge influence. I think it'll be no different with payments. So, but you can imagine, even your comment is well written because it brings up a lot of the things that I think would be magical about it. You can imagine, not that we really have travel agents anymore or that anybody uses them. Some people do, I'm sure, but you could imagine like, an X-based travel agent You know, it just sort of like your agentic AI deals with theirs, you know, lets it know what kind of vacation you want to go on. It gives you a price tag, and then you just shoot the ADA over to that travel agent, and everything's purchased for you. All of your airline tickets, your hotels, all those things are just purchased through the agentic travel agent, you know, and you don't even have to do anything. I think that's definitely the kind of future we're headed towards. So yeah, I think X.com is going to be thinking very much about those things. I think if we want new people, it might be wise to figure out how to educate people so they are less likely to be scammed. Agreed. Cardano education, you could just accidentally have everything set up and then learn how to use it, and then maybe get a free cold wallet. Okay. A wallet. We could be the Mother Teresa of crypto. I think we do need to do things for new users, because we're not going to get them if we don't. I think we've got to do things to bring new users in and make it really easy for new users to use crypto. I kind of think we need to do that. You know, maybe we need to have a PFP NFT and some meme coins and some ADA and some Night Forum, if they'll come in and, you know, use the Cardano ecosystems platforms. You know, I don't know how you incentivize it, make it work, but we got to have some way to drag them into the ecosystem. Otherwise they won't come. But things change in a bull market. If we get the liquidity that it looks like we're going to get in 2026, could everything be so wildly different from now that all of our conversations right now can't even take into account the mainstream rush back into crypto? Very possible. So we do need to have less of this, though. Here's a TechCrunch article. I think we've kind of been expecting this all year. You know, the year-end tally. How much did the robbery forest extract from all the poor princes just trying to travel from castle to castle? How many chests of jewels and gold were stolen from these young princes? Turns out it's 2.7 billion. That's too much, guys. That's too much. If there was any sector, you know what I mean? It's like if going to NFL games resulted in, you know, like the ticket holders going to those games, if collectively they were pickpocketed for 2.7 billion, nobody would go to the goddamn NFL games, right? It's like if the pickpocketing was so out of hand that that 2.7 billion was lifted off people going to NFL games, nobody would go to the NFL games. So it shouldn't be any surprise to us that nobody wants to participate in crypto right now. You know, and it's kind of interesting because this is just hackers. This doesn't even count all the pump and dumps. I mean, if hacks were 2.7 billion, what were the pump and dumps? Like 200 billion? Like how much was also stolen from people through pump and dumps? That number is also got to be gargantuan. Damn bandits. Exactly. We got to do something about the bandits. I don't know how we round up and eliminate the bandits, but that's something we actually need to do. If we could get rid of the bandits, it would help us quite a bit. So speaking of bandits, let's talk about Cardano. So this is an interesting post. I can't verify the things that are being said in this post. I don't know how accurate this is, but it's something to think about. It's a conversation that should be had. So Jeff says they always put those numbers out, but don't put fiat scam or fraud numbers out with it. Yeah, I mean, fiat fraud is always going to be higher for sure. That's true. Bindocam says stay out of the robbery force for starters. Yeah, that helps us. We're certainly a lot less subject to it in crypto or in Cardano, but we also have some Cardano specific stuff going on, and this is a conversation we've got to have. So this is something people should be aware of. People probably don't even want to have this conversation, but it's something people should be aware of. So I'm just going to read this post. I can't vouch for the accuracy of this, but this is something people should be thinking about. Omar is getting a kick out of the IQ discussion. Yeah, I'm afraid people are not as smart as we wish they were. All of us in crypto probably wish the general public was a little smarter. But here's something Here's something we should discuss. Here's something that should be discussed in Cardano. It applies to all of crypto, but it should be discussed because a lot of people probably don't realize the extent to which stuff like this goes on in Cardano. So I'm just going to read the post. I'm going to say something uncomfortable but necessary. If you have a Cardano DeFi project and you're spreading your tokens across 10, 20, or 50 wallets, you're not being strategic. You're destroying your own project's credibility. And no, this isn't aimed at beginners. This is for teams who still believe people don't know how to read on-chain data. The people who truly invest do research. We don't just read the white paper. We don't get impressed by a pretty website. We follow the wallets. We analyze the main wallet. We identify associated wallets. We study movement patterns. We measure real concentration. We spot disguised sell pressure. So you understand what he's talking about here. He is talking about, yep, video tonight, not tomorrow or the next night. Video tonight. But he's talking about projects who divvy up their tokens into a whole bunch of wallets so that they can then sell into the market. And it doesn't look like an insider well wallet is selling into the markets. But the aggregate effect is the same. If you sell from 50 smaller wallets or one big wallet, you're still selling the same amount into your users, into you're creating, you're selling, you're basically dumping on their heads, right? I mean, this is a strategy you can imagine a lot of projects, a manipulation you can imagine a lot of projects engaging in. So he says, we identify associated wallets, we study movement patterns, we measure real concentrations, we spot disguised sell pressure. The moment we see orcas or whales fragmented to look like shrimps, the analysis ends because they know where it's going to go. They could argue they're doing that so they don't get hacked, but we all know why they're really doing it. You can have the best team, the best roadmap, and the best narrative, but if your tokenomics scream manipulation, we don't buy, period. The problem isn't the market, the problem is you. DeFi today doesn't suffer from a lack of money. It suffers from a lack of on-chain honesty. Before, deception worked. Today, data doesn't lie. If your project isn't growing organically, it's not the ecosystem's fault. It's because people are no longer stupid. Transparency is no longer a nice to have. It's the price of entry. Those of us who investigate simply don't buy well-distributed lies. So, I mean, you can imagine these projects that have fungible tokens, they're not giving themselves those tokens to hold them forever. Omar says, unfortunately, it is actually true that the average IQ has gone down south. Yeah, it is. It actually is. As near as I can tell, I haven't researched that very heavily, but that's I've seen a lot of people say that, and I haven't seen anybody say the opposite. I haven't seen anyone say IQs are going up. But the reason those projects are giving themselves tokens is not because they want to hang on to them for their lifetime, right? It's not a situation where Elon Musk has his Tesla shares and he's going to like take loans on those shares for the rest of his life but never actually sell them. No, they're dumping on your heads, right? They're going to dump on your heads. And if you don't hear about them doing it, we've talked about the founder of Litecoin. He told all the people in Litecoin, I'm going to sell. I'm selling everything. I'm selling it all. And he sold right at the top. He sold right at the top of the market. He dumped all of his Litecoin, told everybody ahead of time he was going to do it. It was fine. I respected that. But what projects try to do today, they issue themselves this huge amount of their own tokens, and then they dump on the heads of their users and they try to hide it. This post is indicating that they try to hide it. I certainly believe this is true of some projects. I couldn't tell you what percentage of them do that, but you notice it's like, how many projects have you seen publicly announce that they're going to dump on your head? Have you seen any DeFi projects mention, hey, those governance tokens you guys have got? Well, we're going to dump a bunch of them on your head tomorrow. That's what the Litecoin founder did back in the day. I wish people would have followed that precedent. It'd be nice if we had that kind of disclosure, because it's really a disclosure issue. This is what the SEC would require when insiders are selling securities in the securities world, and they have to make those periodic filings, those 8Ks, 10Ks, 10Qs, they have to include sells by insiders because that's an important disclosure that you need to have if you are holding those securities. I think the same is true of tokens. We don't get that disclosure. And here, this poster is pointing out that they're even disguising their sells. They're disguising them, and people are just too lazy to follow the wallets and see what's going on. So I certainly believe this is true. I'm glad somebody's pointing it out. Let's see how much traction this post has gotten. Okay. Only 32 likes and 1,400 views. There are certainly far more than 1,400 people holding Cardano native tokens. And, you know, he's describing exactly the kind of abuse that they're subject to. And a lot of people never notice, never care. People try to get out of him exactly what project he was talking about. He says, I'm aware of several excellent low market cap projects engaging in wash trading, but it's not prudent to name them publicly. I've done that before and the community reaction wasn't productive. Instead, I teach my students how to spot it using on-chain data. So he's talking about two different things here, right? There's two different things. There's disguised sell pressure and there's also potential wash trading, right? So these are both manipulations that, you know, like we don't want wash trading. And if, you know, we have to accept that there's going to be insider selling. It's just that we would like the disclosure about the insider selling. So I would challenge projects. If you got a bunch of fungible tokens and you're going to be selling them, you got insider allocations, you're going to be selling them. Why not just go the transparent way? Why not just say, hey, you know, the way we're going to make money on our project. We didn't create the project to be altruistic. We created it due to pecuniary interest. We expect to make money, you know, for our efforts. And so we're going to sell some fungible tokens. I wish projects would do that, but you got to admit, you seldom see that. How often on Cardano X have you seen a project come out and say, hey, by the way, we're going to sell some tokens tomorrow. Be prepared. They don't do that. They don't do that. And that's the disclosure that would be required, at least after the fact, at least would be required in the securities world. So there you go. Okay, we should go back here. Okay. Joe Davidson says rich people are bioengineering high IQs. True. They're trying to. And IGs and Instagrams. True. Most projects don't need tokens. Call it what it is. True. I mean, the insiders do need the tokens so they can dump on your heads. They want to dump on your heads, right? The governance is a little bit of a sham in some cases. Really what it is they want to dump on your heads. You are the product of that platform, right? They create these very complicated, difficult to understand, nuanced projects, these platforms. It's very difficult to understand, very circuitous how you put money in there and you come out and make money on the back end. And a lot of times it turns out that it's confusing and circuitous because it's supposed to be, and the actual product is not the service they're providing to you. You are the product. You are a product called exit liquidity. That's the product of those platforms. And you are not the consumer. The insiders are the consumer and of this product that is you as the exit liquidity. Okay. Pucky Hawk doesn't even capitalize I. Just got to be Santa for some kids. Now Santa wants his bags to pump. There you go. Santa should get his milk and cookies too. That's the beautiful thing about life. Everyone is playing at their own level of understanding and perception. Yeah, it's true. If everybody was smart, it would kind of suck. You could like basically never tell stories if everybody was super smart, because every time you went to tell a story, everybody would be able to guess the ending of it, or they would correct you, you know, every time you said something. So we kind of do need a diversity of IQs, but maybe it's gone a little too far south lately. Back when I was a DJ, I used to pick a person and be Santa. So I would send my December paycheck on toys and send them off. And I'm not a DJ anymore, but I still find a way. Okay. This year, I sent money to fight the HOA. I like that. I approve of that. The real story here is that Hugh Jackman is the Hugh Jackman Neil Diamond film. Okay. Omar says, I am not smart enough. I am smart enough to know that one of the dumbest things I can do is overestimate my own intelligence. I think if people just understood that part, if people were just smart enough to understand that part, the world would be a better place for sure. And that kind of goes for people across the intelligence spectrum. Oh my God, YouTube will not let me gift you. What the fuck? I think I broked. Yeah, I don't really. Yeah, there's some limitations on that. There's some limitations on that for sure. They don't put fluoride in the water for your teeth. They do it so you're too dumb to understand why you're always broke. I love this conspiracy theory. It's one that's been around for so long. I kind of love that it still has legs. Diversity of IQs, Brave New World, here we come. Yeah, pretty much, man. Unfortunately. So I think that's about all the news. It was kind of a slow news day until I saw this. I was a little disappointed with the news today because I thought I was going to come to you with very little news, which would have been okay too, just kind of a holiday send off. But this, I believe, is pretty big news. I mean, we don't know. It could be that Mario will come back with a retraction tomorrow and say it's all bullshit or something. But it seems like he should kind of have his finger on the pulse of what's going on X because it's such a gigantic platform. Certainly, you could imagine you could imagine him being in touch with people who work for X and them possibly leaking, accidentally on purpose, leaking this information to him, because I think, if I was Elon and I wanted some news to kind of leak out there to create a little hype ahead of time, this wouldn't be a bad way to do it. Just leak the story to Mario. Hey, we're dropping X payments and give him the bullet points. I mean, you could see a message. You could see a DM being dropped to Mario with exactly these bullet points. So he can just drop it right into a post, P2P payments, 0 fee, crypto coming in Q1, over 1 million signups in 72 hours. But I mean, the thing that's almost unbelievable is 1 million signups in 72 hours. Wouldn't we have heard about that if 1 million people had access to X payments? I mean, somebody would be talking about it besides Mario. I feel like there'd be more people. Kevin Schmitty, what are you doing? It's been so long. I was afraid you died, bro. I was seriously afraid of why I hadn't heard from you. So I'm glad to see you're alive and kicking. Man. Pucky Hawk says fluoride is industrial waste. Hilldog says, well, if you read toothpaste label, it says call poison control if you swallow it because it's poison. You're only supposed to rinse and spit, no drinking. True. This is all true. Thanks for the holiday send off. Already excited for the next stream. Me too. We even had a Kevin Schmitty appearance. It feels like last cycle. Kevin, I'm glad you're around. Jeff says, not a theory. Court ruled they had to stop putting it in the water and they are still doing it. Fluoride is a neurotoxin. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not a conspiracy theory. Like the chemical biological properties of fluoride are certainly not a conspiracy theory, but why it's put in the water, the main motivation for being put in the water, that's kind of where the conspiracy comes in. Brian Presnell says, hello all, happy holidays. Kevin Schmitty says he's been playing Baldur's Gate 3, trying to figure out the hag. There we go. Kristen, it says, hi, Kev. Hey, Kevin. Merry Christmas, Skolder. Merry Christmas. Mike M, Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, Kristen. Yeah, Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy holidays, whatever holiday you're celebrating. I hope everybody has had a good December so far. When we come back, we'll kind of be in that lull between Christmas and New Year's. Not a lot of news happens then, but we'll cover any of the interesting news that comes up. And then, man, once we get past the new year, it'll kind of be off to the races. We'll be in January. The liquidity will be flowing. Fingers crossed that 2026 is a much better year for crypto than 2025, which was kind of a desolate wasteland. Hate to say it at the end of the year, but it was. We survived it. The important thing is we're all here. Sub-Zero more on the fluoride. Pucky Hawk says time to drink. Cardano says happy Christmas, dude. Have a good one. Yeah, please. If you like to have a drink, please have one for me over the holidays. I didn't drink too much for about 2 years just because I'm a carnivore, and obviously they're not making whiskey out of beef. But I think I will have something. I will have a few drinks this holiday season. So I hope if you do like to have a drink around the holidays, please have one for me. But I hope everybody has a great holiday season. Good morning, Bruno. Good morning. Thanks for joining. Let's see. Jeff Burns, he's going to drink his Ovaltine. Pucky Hawk says butter shots. Yeah, whatever you're going to drink, please drink one for me over the holidays, whatever holiday you are celebrating. Mike M says White Russian, which brings back a good movie nostalgia for a lot of people. Merry Christmas, fire it up. Yep, have one of those for me too, Jay Marie. Please do. But anyways, I hope everybody has a great holiday season, and I'll be back next week. We'll discuss whatever news happens in that kind of lull period in between Christmas and New Year's. But I hope everybody has a good one, and I will talk to you soon.